It was December 9th, 1965. A cold winter evening had settled over Pennsylvania. The sky was clear, the kind of brittle night where every star seemed to burn sharper against the dark. In small towns across the state, families prepared for another long night before Christmas. Fires crackled in living rooms. Radios hummed softly with the news of the day. And then, at precisely 4:47 p.m., the sky was torn apart. From the west, witnesses saw a blinding streak of fire. It cut across the heavens, leaving a trail of smoke and sparks, a blazing object tearing toward the earth. Some described it as a meteor, others as a burning aircraft, but many swore it was something stranger, too controlled, too deliberate. In Cleveland, Ohio, drivers pulled their cars to the side of the road, watching as the glowing mass roared overhead. In Ontario, Canada, people looked up from their snow-covered streets and gasped as the fireball moved steadily eastward. The spectacle stretched for hundreds of miles, lighting up the skies of the Midwest and beyond. But for the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, the story was just beginning. Residents there reported hearing a deep rumble, like distant thunder rolling beneath the ground. Dogs barked, windows rattled. Then came the crash, an impact in the forested hills just outside of town. Some described it as a dull thud, others as a metallic clang that echoed across the valley. Within minutes, curiosity overcame fear. Locals rushed toward the sound, their breath misting in the cold air, their boots crunching over frozen leaves. Children pointed toward the tree line, shouting about the glowing light that seemed to pulse from within the woods. A few of the first to arrive described something chilling. Not wreckage scattered across the ground, not debris from an exploded plane, but a single object, large, metallic, half buried in the earth. Roughly the size of a small car, it was shaped like an acorn or a bell. Its surface was smooth, bronze-like, and along its lower rim, strange markings could be seen. Symbols no one recognized, lines and shapes that seemed foreign, almost carved. One man compared it to Egyptian hieroglyphs. Another said it looked like alien writing. The object glowed faintly, heat still radiating from its surface. Smoke curled around the trees, mingling with the mist of the evening. The townsfolk stood in awe and fear, their voices hushed, unsure whether they were staring at a piece of a fallen satellite or something else. Word spread quickly. Phone calls lit up between neighbors. Within an hour, dozens of people had gathered at the forest edge. Farmers, mechanics, mothers clutching their children's hands. They whispered about what they had seen in the sky. Some were certain it was a meteor. Others insisted it was an aircraft, perhaps a secret military project gone wrong. A few, braver or perhaps more honest, spoke aloud what many were already thinking. It looks like a UFO. As the crowd grew, so did the tension. Some wanted to get closer, to touch the thing, to see the strange markings for themselves. Others urged caution. What if it was radioactive? What if it exploded? In the fading light, the glow from the woods seemed almost alive, a heartbeat in the trees. Teenagers dared each other to creep closer. One boy swore he saw the object shift slightly, as if it wasn't entirely dead. Adults pulled him back, their faces pale. By nightfall, the story had already spread beyond Kecksburg. Local radio stations began to receive frantic calls. Reporters scrambled, piecing together eyewitness accounts of a fireball streaking across the sky, of a crash in the woods, of a metallic object buried in the Pennsylvania soil. At WHJB, a radio station in nearby Greensburg, the phone rang off the hook. News director John Murphy drove to Kecksburg himself, his tape recorder ready, determined to capture the story firsthand. He wasn't the only one. Journalists from Pittsburgh and beyond began to arrive, drawn by whispers of something extraordinary in the hills. But the townsfolk, standing in the cold at the edge of the forest, didn't know what was coming next. They only knew they had seen something that defied explanation. A fire in the sky, a crash that shook the earth. A strange, bell-shaped object with markings no one could read. And even as they stood in the dark, their breath hanging like ghosts in the winter air, headlights appeared on the road. Military trucks moving fast. Soldiers, armed, serious, their faces set like stone. The townsfolk exchanged nervous glances. Whatever had fallen into their woods was no longer just theirs. The government had arrived, and with it, the first shadows of a cover-up that would haunt Kecksburg for decades to come. The first military trucks rolled into Kecksburg under the cover of darkness. Their headlights cut across the snow-dusted roads, engines growling as soldiers climbed out, boots crunching on frozen gravel. They carried rifles, radios, and an air of authority that silenced the chatter of the townsfolk. Within minutes, the small rural community no longer belonged to itself. Soldiers fanned out along the forest's edge, shouting for civilians to step back. Farmers who had grown up in these hills, men who had hunted in those woods all their lives, were told they could go no further. Some tried to argue. "That's our land," they said, but the soldiers were unmovable. "Restricted area," they barked, "for your safety." The glow in the trees still pulsed faintly, but now no civilian would get close enough to see. Eyewitnesses later claimed that soldiers moved deeper into the woods with equipment. Floodlights lit up the night, their beams slicing through smoke and mist. Trucks rumbled into position, and men with strange measuring devices disappeared into the dark. What were they doing in there? No one outside the cordon knew. But whispers spread quickly. Some said the object was being cut apart. Others claimed it was being lifted intact onto a flatbed truck. Around midnight, more vehicles arrived, larger ones with tarps and heavy machinery. Witnesses swore they saw something enormous being hauled out of the forest, covered in canvas. The shape beneath the tarp was unmistakable, rounded, curved like a massive acorn or bell. Soldiers warned civilians not to talk. Some were threatened directly. Others were simply shoved back as the convoy rolled away. By dawn, the forest was empty again. The glow had vanished. The object was gone. And where it had fallen, the ground was churned, the soil blackened. Something had happened in Kecksburg that night. Something real. But whatever it was, the army had taken it away. The town was left with questions, and the uneasy knowledge that they had seen something forbidden. The morning after, reporters descended on Kecksburg. John Murphy of WHJB Radio was among the first. He had driven into town during the night, recording witness interviews, capturing the fear and awe in their voices. He even claimed to have photographed the site. But when he tried to pursue the story, something strange happened. His recordings were confiscated. His film disappeared. Years later, his widow would say the government had taken them, leaving only fragments behind. Other journalists faced the same wall. The military insisted the fireball was nothing unusual, just a meteor burning up in the atmosphere. But locals knew better. They had seen soldiers carry something from the forest. They had seen the trucks, the tarps, the floodlights. The meteor explanation did not fit. Why deploy dozens of armed men for a simple rock from the sky? Why silence witnesses? As days turned to weeks, Kecksburg became a whisper, a forbidden subject. Some who spoke too loudly claimed they were visited by men in dark suits, told to stop spreading wild stories. Others fell silent on their own, afraid of ridicule, or worse. Still, the legend grew. Some said the object was a Soviet satellite, part of the Cold War. Others insisted it was a secret American experiment gone wrong. And then there were those who never doubted what they saw, a craft not of this earth. By the 1970s, the Kecksburg Incident was called the Roswell of the East. Researchers dug through archives, filed Freedom of Information requests, pressed the government for answers, but the files were classified, pages blacked out, evidence erased. Whatever had happened in those woods, someone had buried it deep. Decades later, Kecksburg still carries the weight of that night. The forest is quiet now, the clearing overgrown, but the memory lingers in the minds of those who were there. Old men sit in diners, remembering the glow in the sky, the soldiers with their rifles, the strange shape beneath the tarp. For them, it was real. For skeptics, the explanation remains simple: a meteor, nothing more. NASA eventually admitted to studying the incident, but claimed the files were lost. Lost or hidden? In the 1990s, television programs revived the case, interviewing surviving witnesses who repeated their stories with trembling conviction. They had nothing to gain, nothing to prove, only the truth to tell. Some described the markings on the object in detail. Others swore they had seen soldiers loaded onto a truck. All agreed on one thing: the military took something out of Kecksburg, and it was no ordinary rock. Today, the town embraces its legacy. A replica of the acorn-shaped object stands near the fire station, painted bronze, a monument to mystery. Tourists visit, snapping photos, whispering about what might still lie buried in government vaults. But beneath the tourist smiles and souvenirs lies a darker truth. Something fell that night. People saw it, soldiers took it, and the truth was silenced. The Kecksburg UFO incident remains unsolved, an echo of secrecy that stretches from the Cold War into the present day. Was it a Soviet satellite, a secret experiment, or was it, as many believe, the wreck of an extraterrestrial craft? The forest keeps its silence. The government keeps its silence. Only the witnesses remain, aging now, their voices fading like echoes in the trees. Yet one question endures, as heavy as the object itself. If it was only a meteor, why did the army come in the night, cover it in canvas, and take it away?